Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going deep into Dr. Sebi's world. We're talking about the book, Dr. Sebi, Treatment and Cure. You know, the one by Amani Johnson.
Oh, yeah, this one's a fascinating read.
It is. And it gets pretty unique with Dr. Sebi's take on health.
Thank you
He
very
basically
much.
says all health problems, everything comes back to one thing, an acidic body. Like our bodies are too acidic and we have all this mucus buildup.
And what's really interesting is how Dr. Sebi connects that to our lymphatic system.
The lymphatic system. You know, I'm pretty good about drinking water and all that,
Mhm.
but I don't know if I think much about my lymphatic system.
Right. It's kind of easy to forget about, but it's basically our body's waste removal system, like a drainage system.
Okay, I'm picturing like drains and pipes.
Exactly. And Dr. Sebi was adamant that when this system gets sluggish, that's when all those problems start. You get the mucus buildup, the inflammation, the acidity, the whole nine yards.
So you're saying like even a headache.
Could be linked back to that, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so thinking about this drainage system analogy, what do we do? Do we like unclog the pipes?
That's basically the idea behind Dr. Sebi's famous detox diet. Have you looked into the different levels?
Yeah, there are a few, right? The most intense one, I think, is all about raw fruits.
You got it. Level 3, the hard reset, only raw fruits.
Sounds pretty hardcore.
Dr. Sebi believed in going all in. The faster you detox, the quicker your body can rebalance. Just got to power through it.
I see. But what about those detox symptoms? I've heard some not so fun stories about headaches and feeling super tired.
Yeah, those are pretty common, unfortunately. But Dr. Sebi saw those symptoms as like signs that the detox is working, that your body's actually flushing out those toxins.
Oh, I see. So it's like a no pain, no gain kind of thing.
In a way, yeah, but you don't stay on that intense fruit diet forever. Eventually, you ease into what Dr. Sebi called the maintenance diet.
Okay, so what's that like?
It's still focused on alkaline foods, but you get to bring back a wider variety, give your body a break.
And are we talking like super strict calorie counting and all that?
Actually, no. One of the cool things about Dr. Sebi's approach is there's no calorie counting. You eat the approved foods until you're full. That's it.
Interesting. So it's more about what you're eating, not how much.
Exactly. Quality over quantity, right?
Right. Okay, so this all sounds pretty interesting, but does it actually work? Like if someone has a specific health problem, like let's say kidney stones.
Well, for kidney stones, Dr. Sebi's main thing was hydration, like serious hydration. We're talking up to 4 gallons of water a day.
4 gallons. Wow, that's a lot of water.
Yeah, he believed it was crucial for flushing out those toxins, though modern medicine might advise a bit of caution there. You don't want to overdo it.
All right, got to listen to your body and all that. Okay, so what about something more complex, like diabetes?
Dr. Sebi actually broke diabetes down into 3 different types, each with its own cause, you see. But across the board, he really emphasized diet, especially slow-release carbohydrates.
To keep those blood sugar levels stable.
Exactly. Some foods cause those big spikes, others give you more sustained energy.
Okay, so mindful eating,
Pretty
basically.
much. And when it came to heart disease,
Heart disease, yeah, that's a big one.
Dr. Sebi really saw it as a combination of things. Not eating right, too much stress, lifestyle choices.
So like a whole body approach.
Absolutely. He was a big believer in our body's ability to heal itself, even clearing out cholesterol from our arteries.
Fascinating. So it's all about giving the body the right tools, the right fuel.
Exactly. And speaking of the body as a whole, we should touch on thyroid issues.
Oh, yeah. Thyroid problems seem so common these days.
Right. And Dr. Sebi knew how important the thyroid is for our metabolism. If it's not working properly, it throws a wrench in the whole system.
So was he against medication for thyroid issues?
Not necessarily. He understood that sometimes medication is needed, but he really felt that good nutrition could support thyroid health too.
So like a two-pronged approach.
You could say that, yeah. It's about giving your body every chance to heal and function at its best.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, seems to be Dr. Sebi's overall philosophy. It's about getting to the root of the problem, not just slapping a Band-Aid on it.
Absolutely. He was all about creating that balanced internal environment. Clean, alkaline, and free of all that mucus buildup. Then the body can do what it does best. Heal itself.
It's amazing how interconnected everything is in his view.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about kidney stones, diabetes, heart disease, and thyroid problems. Before we go too far, I think we need to dive into some more specific health issues.
Sounds good to me.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more insights from Dr. Sebi's world. Okay, so we're back, and we're diving deeper into Dr. Sebi's take on specific health issues. Now, before the break, we were talking about thyroid problems, but there's another one I keep hearing about, candida. What did Dr. Sebi have to say about that?
Oh, yeah, candida overgrowth. He saw that as, well, directly tied to what we're putting in our bodies.
Like too much sugar, right?
Exactly. He believed all that extra sugar feeds the candida, lets
Right.
it grow out of control.
Makes sense. So it's not just about treating the symptoms, but like cutting off the candida's food supply.
Exactly, starve it out, so to speak, and at the same time, boost the body's own defenses.
Interesting. So speaking of different health concerns, did Dr. Sebi ever talk about issues specific to women?
He did. He had some thoughts on things like PMS, endometriosis, even hair loss.
Hair loss, huh? That's interesting. What did he think was going on there?
Well, he often connected it to hormonal changes, especially in women.
Right, hormones. They can be a bit of a roller coaster sometimes, can't they?
Yeah.
So how did he approach, like, PMS, for example?
With PMS, he saw those mood swings and other symptoms as signs of hormonal imbalance, right? And often he thought it was made worse by not getting the right nutrients.
So his dietary advice was aimed at kind of like balancing things out.
Yeah, exactly. Nourishing the endocrine system, bringing those hormones back into harmony, kind of a common thread with Dr. Sebi.
I was just thinking that. He always seemed to focus on getting to the root of the issue instead of just masking symptoms.
That's it. Now, endometriosis. That one's a bit trickier. He knew the causes weren't totally clear, but he believed that lowering inflammation, helping the body detoxify, could help.
So even with a condition where we don't have all the answers, he still focused on creating that optimal environment for the body to heal.
Exactly. And with hair loss, well, he had a few different ideas there. Hormones played a part, but also things like nutritional deficiencies, even stress.
Wow, so it's like a whole web of factors. It's really fascinating how interconnected everything is in Dr. Sebi's view.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've touched on a few women's health issues. What about something like insomnia? Did he ever talk about sleep problems?
Oh, yeah. And he didn't just stop at, stress or anxiety. He suggested that what we eat could actually be messing with our sleep.
I never thought about that. I always figured insomnia was more of a mental thing.
Right. But he thought some foods could be overstimulating our nervous system or throwing our hormones off balance. And that can make it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep.
It all comes back to balance, doesn't it? Okay, so we've talked a lot about what Dr. Sebi recommended we avoid, but what about the good stuff? What did he say we should be eating?
Well, that's where his famous food list comes in. It might seem a little limited at first, but it's all about those alkaline foods, the ones that create that healthy environment inside us. Lots of veggies, for example. Though there are a few surprises.
Surprises. Like what?
Well, tomatoes are mostly off the list, except for plum tomatoes and cherry tomatoes.
Wait, no tomatoes. But aren't those supposed to be good for you?
He considered most tomatoes too acidic.
That's interesting. Okay, so lots of veggies, except for most tomatoes. What about fruit?
Fruit's a big yes, but stick to natural, non-GMO kinds and avoid the seedless varieties.
Seedless fruits are out. Why is that?
He saw seedless fruits as a product of, hybridization, genetic modification, not natural enough for him.
Okay, interesting perspective. What about grains?
He had some specific grains he approved of: spelt, quinoa, wild rice, but no wheat.
No wheat at all.
Nope. He considered wheat mucus-forming and acidic.
Huh. That's definitely different from what a lot of other health experts say. Okay, so veggies, fruit, some specific grains. What about nuts and seeds?
Those are in, but again, with a few exceptions: no peanuts, no cashews.
More exclusions? Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. So what about oils? If I'm cooking with Dr. Sebi's food list, what oils can I use?
The main ones are avocado oil and olive oil.
Okay, makes sense. Those are good fats, right? Now, I'm going to guess that sugar is a no-go.
Refined sugar, definitely out, but pure agave syrup and date sugar are okay.
So a little sweetness is allowed. Ooh. Okay, so with all these specific foods and the ones to avoid, I have to ask, what does a Dr. Sebi meal actually look like? Is it just salads and smoothies all day long?
Not at all. In fact, the book we're talking about, it has a whole section of recipes, and they're surprisingly diverse. You've got things like sea moss gel. You can use that as a base for all sorts of things. And amaranth milk.
Amaranth milk, what's that?
It's like a plant-based milk, a good alternative to dairy.
Okay, interesting. And you said there were other recipes?
Oh, yeah, tons. There's even nut cheese.
Nut cheese.
Huh.
Okay, now that's something I'd have to try. I love cheese.
See? You can still enjoy delicious food and follow Dr. Sebi's principles.
Okay, so we've gotten a pretty good overview of Dr. Sebi's approach. The detox, the maintenance diet, his take on specific health problems. Can you give us like a super quick recap, just the main takeaways?
Sure. So the core of it all is cleansing, getting your body to an alkaline state and keeping that lymphatic system flowing smoothly. Plant-based diet, focused on alkaline foods, and he was a big believer in the healing power of herbs. That's a pretty unique perspective, right?
It is, and I think a lot of people are drawn to the idea of taking control of their own health, not just relying on conventional medicine.
Absolutely. It's about making informed choices, understanding how those choices affect our bodies.
So well said. Okay, before we wrap up completely, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that's Dr. Sebi's use of herbs. He seemed to have a deep knowledge of plants and their healing properties.
Oh, yeah, he was all about herbs. He called them nature's medicine cabinet. And he believed each one had its own special power to help the body heal. Actually, the book we've been discussing, it even has a whole section called the Herbarium.
An herbarium. What's that?
It's like a guide to all these different herbs and what they can do. For example, he recommended animu for women's health. Helps with menstrual cycles, fights infections, even boosts the immune system.
Wow, animu sounds pretty impressive. What other herbs did Dr. Sebi like to use?
Oh, there are so many. But one that stands out is black walnut. It's a natural vermifuge, which means
Vermifuge, what's that?
it means it fights intestinal parasites, worms, basically.
Oh, okay, I see. So black walnut gets rid of those nasty critters. Anything else?
Yeah. It's also supposed to be good for candida and even for heart health. And then there's red clover. That one's a favorite for women, too.
Red clover, what does that one do?
It's good for PMS symptoms, helps with menopause, and even strengthens bones.
Wow, so we've got animu, black walnut, and red clover. All pretty powerful herbs. It sounds like Dr. Sebi really knew his plants. But with all this focus on specific foods and herbs, did he ever acknowledge the role of conventional medicine?
Oh, absolutely. He knew that conventional medicine has its place. He just encouraged people to work with their doctors, make informed decisions about their health. It's all about finding what works best for you.
That's a really important point. We shouldn't dismiss either approach completely, right?
Exactly. And we should always be critical thinkers. Do our research, ask questions, don't just take anyone's word for it.
That's great advice for anything in life, really. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from Dr. Sebi's basic philosophy to some pretty specific health concerns. It's been fascinating.
It really has. I love digging into these unique perspectives.
Me too. And to our listeners, thank you for coming along on this deep dive with us. Hopefully it sparked your curiosity about Dr. Sebi and his approach to health.
Keep exploring, everyone. There's always more to learn.
Until next time, deep divers. So we've spent all this time talking about Dr. Sebi's approach. But I'm wondering, how does all this line up with, regular medicine?
It's true that Dr. Sebi's ideas, well, sometimes they kind of clashed with mainstream medical thought.
I mean, he made some pretty bold claims. Did those claims hold up, like scientifically?
That's where it gets a little tricky. Some of his methods, they didn't really have the rigorous scientific backing you'd expect.
So it's probably best to, take it all with a grain of salt, do your own research.
Definitely. Always a good idea to double check, especially when it comes to your health. And talk to your doctor, of course.
Right. I think that's good advice in general. No matter what you're learning about, it's important to think critically. Weigh the evidence. Don't just believe everything you hear.
Absolutely. Having different perspectives can really help you get a clearer picture. Now, to answer your earlier question, Dr. Sebi, he definitely got some pushback from the medical community.
I bet. So how did he respond to that?
He acknowledged it for sure, but he stood by his beliefs. He actually thought a lot of the skepticism came from, well, a fundamental difference in approach. Natural healing versus a more pharmaceutical approach.
Like he was coming at it from a totally different angle.
Exactly. And he was really passionate about empowering people to take control of their health naturally.
And that resonated with a lot of people, right?
It did. Especially those who were, looking for alternatives. Whether or not you agree with everything Dr. Sebi said, I think his emphasis on personal responsibility, on understanding how our choices impact our well-being, well, that's something we can all take away from this.
I totally agree. It's about finding what works best for you, for your individual needs.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means stepping outside the box, trying something different.
Exactly. Being proactive, taking charge of your own health journey.
Well said. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Dr. Sebi's world. It's been quite a journey. We've explored his ideas about the root causes of illness, his specific dietary recommendations, and his fascinating use of herbs.
We've also talked about the importance of critical thinking, considering different points of view, and making informed decisions about our health.
And for me, I think the biggest takeaway is that there's always something new to learn, new questions to ask, new ways of looking at things.
And who knows, maybe exploring those unconventional paths will lead you to some amazing
I
discoveries.
love that. To all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring,
Until next time, keep those minds engaged.
and keep diving deep.